Hello again. Today we're going to be working on circumference. Circumference of circles is the distance around the outside of a circle. For other shapes, you might have known this as perimeter, but we have a special word because circles don't have any straight sides, they're all curved. You're going to need a pencil and a scientific calculator. Grab your circumference notes and let's get started. Just a brief review of some vocabulary. A circle is a geometric figure without sides. The center of a circle is the middle point. The radius is the distance from the center to the edge of the circles. The diameter is the distance all the way across a circle, which is double the radius. And the circumference is the distance around the outside of the circle, so all the way around the outside. Now we're going to talk about pi. We're going to come back to area in another video. Pi. I'm sure you guys have heard of pi before. It's a non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. It's an irrational number. And oftentimes we approximate it as 3 and 1400s. So let's change this equal sign to the approximation sign. We're going to be calculating exact values on our scientific calculator using the pi button and approximate values using 3 and 1400ths as an estimate. So let's go down here and determine the radius, diameter, and circumference of each of the following circles. Let's start with the frisbee. Well, on the frisbee, we see information going from the center to the edge, which means we have the radius. So we know the radius is 5 inches. The diameter is 2 times the radius. So since the radius was 5 inches, the diameter is 10 inches. Now, to calculate the circumference, we can use one of two formulas. Circumference is pi times diameter, or it's 2 times pi times the radius. And these are equivalent because 2 times r equals the diameter. So these formulas are equivalent. We're going to use both and just be flexible. Let's go with C equals 2 pi r. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to calculate the circumference in terms of pi. So I'm trying to find the circumference. 2 times pi times the radius, which we knew was 5. 2 times 5 is 10. So the circumference is 10 pi. And that unit is inches. This is called an answer in terms of pi. And this is an exact answer. To get an approximate answer, we're going to approximate the value of pi to 3 and 1400ths and multiply. An approximate value here would be 31 and 4/10 inches. So this is our approximate value. Ready to try again? On this wristwatch, what's given to us in the picture goes all the way across the face of this watch. Did you say the diameter? You'd be correct. So the diameter given to us is 28 millimeters. The radius, as you can see, is the diameter divided by 2. So we know the diameter was 28. We'll divide it by 2. And so we get a radius of 14 millimeters. Since this one gave us the diameter, we'll use the circumference formula involving diameter. C, circumference, equals pi times diameter. Well, I know that the diameter was 28 millimeters. And when we write our final answer, that coefficient will jump up front of the variable pi. So the circumference is 28 pi millimeters. This is our in terms of pi answer or our exact answer. It's exact because leaving the pi as the pi symbol encompasses all of the digits of pi. So it's precise. An approximate value, we would use 3 and 1400ths for pi. And this time, let's round to the nearest, let's say 100th. When we multiply, 87 and 92 hundredths millimeters. And there's our approximate value. One more. So what's given to us here? Well, we have to think a little bit. I know the radius of the orange circle and part of the blue circle, but if we just move the orange radius to connect to the edge of the orange circle, that little radius is 5 as well. So we have this entire distance from the center of the orange circle to the edge of the blue circle would be the 5 plus the 5, giving us a radius of the blue circle of 10 centimeters exactly. For the diameter, we know the diameter is 2 times the radius. We know the radius is 10. So the diameter is 20 centimeters. Again, it gave us the radius, so we're going to use the radius formula, c equals 2 pi r. C equals 2 times pi, the radius was 10. 2 times 10 is 20 pi, and the units are centimeters. This is our exact answer. To get an approximate answer, we'll multiply 20 times the approximation value. And we have approximately 62 and 8/10 centimeters. Let's continue. Go to the next page. This question tells us to find the diameter of a circle whose circumference is 12 inches. Well, we can use the 3 boxes method again. What do we know? What do we need to find? And what's our work? Well, what do we know? Well, we know that the circumference is 12 inches. What's it asking us to find? The diameter. Since we don't know what that is, let's call it D. In our workbox, do we know a formula that relates C with D? We do. C equals pi times diameter. Now, what do we know here? Well, we know the circumference is 12, so I'm going to substitute 12 for the circumference. And I need to solve for D. So what's happening between the pi and the D? Multiplication. What's the inverse? Division. So I need to divide both sides by pi. So 12 divided by pi inches is equal to the diameter. This is our exact answer, or in terms of pi answer. If we were to get an approximate value, we'd want to divide 12 by 3 and 14 hundredths to get an approximate value for the diameter. Let's say we round this one to the 10th. So divide that out in your calculator. You should have gotten about 3 and 8/10 inches. And there's our approximate answer. That's the basics for finding circumference. Now, we've just been working on full circles. Let's talk a little bit more. So if we're going to find the perimeter of portions of circles, remember that circumference refers to the rounded part of a figure only. Perimeter is the all-encompassing word that describes the distance around an entire figure. So if we're working on a semicircle, it says find the circumference of the rounded portion. Since it's half a circle, divide the circumference formula by 2, and then add the straight sides. So let's start. So what's given to us in this figure is our diameter. So we know the diameter is 6 meters. So perimeter is equal to the circumference formula, pi times diameter. But since it's a semicircle, we're dividing it by 2. That counts as this rounded portion that we have just written down. But we also, in finding perimeter, have to add on the flat sides. And that's just 6 units. So we're going to add the 6. So pi times diameter, our diameter was 6 divided by 2. And then we add the 6. So we're covering the rounded area, rounded portion and the flat portion? Well, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So our exact perimeter is 3 pi plus 6 meters. Now, 3 pi and 6 are unlike terms, so I cannot add them. However, I can get a more approximate value of our total figure. So we take our perimeter. We have 3 pi, so we'll approximate pi this time to 3 and 1400ths. Adding on the 6. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 1400ths in my calculator, hit equals, then hit plus 6. Did you get your answer as approximately 15 and 4200ths meters? Great job. Let's try again. So this time what's given to us in the figure is the radius of 15 inches. Now remember, we need the entire rounded portion first. So we're going to use our C equals 2 pi r formula because it gives us the radius. But again, it's a semicircle, so we're going to divide it by 2. Then we have to be sure to add on this flat side. Well, how long is the flat side all the way across? The radius is 15, but what would the diameter all the way across be? Exactly, 30. So let's take a look. If we simplify this formula, the 2's divide out, leaving us with P is equal to the radius times pi. And we said the radius was 15 inches. So we have 15 pi plus 30 inches. And that's our exact, or in terms of pi, answer. To get our approximate value, we'll multiply 15 times 3 and 1400ths in our calculator, and we add on the 30. If we approximate that, let's say to the 10th, you should end up at 77 and 1/10 inches, which would be our approximate value. So remember, when we're finding perimeter, we need the rounded portions and the flat portions. If we just have a full circle circumference. Let's try one more together. What portion of a circle do you see here? Did you say this was a quarter circle? You'd be right. Right here is the center. So what does the 8 centimeters represent? Center to the edge. Did you say the radius? You'd be right. So if we're working to find the perimeter, we know we first need the rounded portion. So P equals, since it gave us the radius, we'll use the radius circumference formula. But since this is a quarter circle, this time instead of dividing by 2, what do you think we should divide by? Did you say 4? Good job. Now the question here is, what should we add on? Well, remember, we have to add on all the flat sides. Well, we have one radius right here. That's a flat side. And another radius right here. So should we add on 8 or 16? 16, because we have to add that 8 twice. All right, now let's simplify. So if we were to simplify this formula, we could divide to start with. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we have perimeter equals pi times the radius, which is 8. Now divided by 2 plus the 16. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So our perimeter is 4 pi plus 16 centimeters. And that's our exact, or in terms of pi, answer. Can you calculate the approximate value using 3 and 1400ths? Go ahead and round this one to the 100th. Great job. We'll work more on circumference of circles and perimeter of composite figures next time.